Thank you so much. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Suzanne, for warm hospitality. I really appreciate that. And can I please hear another round of applause for Lily? Amazing. Yes. I definitely feel like I was transported during that. I mean, how could you not just leave the planet for a little while? It was really fun. Yeah, thank you so much again for inviting me. So this is work that I've been doing for the last 6 years. It has to do with how women and minorities find representation, but how they find purpose, more specifically in audio. So this is my research. So let's start first by defining kind of what is credibilitizing. What is credibilitizing? It's a long story. It's a very long story. So there's a lot of research that led to the creation of this word. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview, and then we're going to get into the research itself. And so the answer to what is credibilitizing comes much later, but we will get there. Let's start with credentials. So looking at the Latin root cred, as in credibilitizing, we'll talk about credentials. So credentials are the things that you fill your resume with or your CV. I'm past president. We heard all my credentials. Thank you, Sydney, for telling everyone my credentials. But here they are up on the screen for you. And we need credentials because it means believe. If you have credentials, it means people believe you can do the work. People believe that you are an expert. People believe and have confidence in your ability to do whatever it is they entrust you with. And so you need credibility. If you don't have credibility, it's kind of hard to get a job. I did a little bit of a German translation because, of course, in German, credibility has a different word base or a different root. And so here we look at the word glaub, so or the prefix glaub. So glauben, to believe, Glaubwürdigkeit schenken. I'm not going to, my German pronunciation is not so good, but my favorite one to say is Gläubiger. Is that right? Gläubiger? These are also words that have to do with whether you believe somebody is able to do the work, or if you want somebody to believe that you can do the work. So we're going to move on a little bit from these words, and I'm going to take you on a little journey. So this is the motivation for the study. A lot of times I find I'm the only black woman in the room, like today. So it is kind of a lonely way to be. This was the 2023 International Conference on Audio Education, and I'm in there. You have to look real hard, but I'm sort of there-ish, sort of in the middle. It's sort of being immersed in a sea of people where I'm the only person of color. Oh, but am I? I'm not. There are other black women who are audio engineers. Here they are. We did a panel at the AES convention in New York. There's an organization in Nigeria called Audio Girl Africa, and they're actually expanding to Kenya and Ghana. The MPSC Golden Reel Awards, I was there a couple years ago with my sound crew. So I was supervising sound editor for our trip to MPSC. Just recently, we just launched a little WhatsApp group called Sister Sound, so I just decided to put in contact with each other, every black woman who was an audio engineer I knew. And the group is very small, but we're starting to grow. And I reached out to a similar network when Audio Girl Africa was having a fundraising campaign. So I'm not the only one. And then in terms of giving visibility to women at the MPSC Golden Reel Awards, these are all women who work on award-winning games like who plays Ghosts of Yotai on PlayStation 5, which is won one of the awards. And these are some of the women who worked on Ghosts of Yotai, or Adolescence, which was a TV show that got Best Sound. So there are more and more of us. These are 2 group photos at the same event. So there's quite a great representation of women there. So I heard a mentor of mine say, we usually don't realize we've assumed something until something contradicts that assumption. So I might have assumed I was the only one, but then I met other people like me. Or you might assume that because you don't see a lot of people, for example, women, just as an example, who are doing a certain kind of work, that women just aren't into it, or whatever assumptions you want to make. So I set out to do some research. This was my doctoral research. What's the data? How many of this are there anyway? What are the barriers to entry? Are there things that keep us from being there? How do we get rid of them? And what are the main concerns of people who are underrepresented, women and minorities, in audio engineering, immersive audio in particular? And the reason I needed to start with data is because data lends credence to an idea. Anybody who's been on social media who wants to advocate for something, I mean, the world is full of people. Prove it, show me, prove it. All right, so you need data to underscore your point. One of the myths that we come across is women just aren't interested in immersive audio or audio, and why are we trying so hard? I'm not saying anybody in this room feels this way, but I'm just saying there seems to be this sentiment out there. And a lot of times I think women struggle to counter this myth. Some of the things that you might say, or men as well, if you show up in a forum and somebody says, women just aren't interested, you might say, well, I'm interested. And that's not really data. That's just saying, well, you are, but then, how do you explain the discrepancy? Well, here's some data that we can look at. This data shows that from the ages of 5 to 16, they did a survey of students in music schools, and the proportion of students saying they wanted to do music technology as their instrument, and I was just talking with someone about music technology as an instrument, right, is about 40% female. So yeah, girls are interested, I would say. That shows pretty good interest. That number goes down when young women reach the age of 16, goes down again when they get ready to go to school, goes down again when it's time to enter university, down to 10%. 10% is a magic number. We're going to see a lot of this crazy 10% number. But it shows that there's a leak in the pipeline. What happens? Why do they become less and less interested in music technology? Oh, here's a big busy slide for you. We're going to break this one down. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this was basically a poster I created as I was going through my research to show how I was going to break down this topic. This one shows there's an Atmos Mixing Professionals group on Facebook. So this is like Dolby Atmos for cinema, Dolby Atmos for music, immersive music. And so you can see that of the 2,800 members on this group, only 2% of them are female. They barely even show up on the graph. Or let's look at this one. This is spatial audio in virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. 11,000 members and 10% women. 10%. Where have we seen that number before? That's about 10%. That's interesting. Just interesting. Here's another one. AES conferences. We actually had someone, to go and look at the numbers of women who are presenting at AES conferences on topics that I related somewhat to immersive audio in yellow. So like audio for games might have immersive, so I put the ones that might have something to do with immersive audio in yellow. Notice this top number is not 100%, it's 30. At no time at an AES conference during these years did we have more than 30% of presenters who were women. So the numbers are very low. And then we're looking at sound for video games. This was Game Sound Con, which is actually a conference. And if you go to Game Sound Con, you can interact with other game audio enthusiasts. This shows the number of, well, by race. So the biggest, Pac-Man, green Pac-Man size is the white males, and then the little quarter size is broken down into all these subgroups of ethnicity. Black people, like me, are 2%. And then I have these stars up here. So in 2020, when I did my research, 2021, 8.4% of game audio engineers in the United States were women, and 16% in the UK, and those numbers flip-flopped. In 2025, the number went up in the United States and down in the UK. I don't know what happened there. It's funny how that number just kind of hovers around 10%. These are stats from Motion Picture Editors Guild. So Motion Picture Editors Guild has people who do picture editing, story analysis, and post-sound. Dang, there's that number, 9%. Only 9% of people working in post-sound are women. What's going on? This was 2018. You might have seen the USC Annenberg study. This one is not happy news. So let's see, on the left-hand side of the screen is 2022 statistics, and then on the right-hand side of the screen are statistics from 2025, and that number went down. So this was numbers of women working on Billboard charting hits. Okay, and those numbers are self-explanatory. They are low. Less than 1% are women like me, women of color. Oh, let's just keep looking at dismal statistics. No, let's stop looking at dismal statistics. Let's listen to Erin Baragine. I'm not going to, sorry, there's no audio, don't worry. When I say let's listen, I'm actually going to read the slide for you. So I'm going to become Erin Jean. Erin runs a organization called We Make Noise, which you can read about on the net, on the internet. Erin says, "This bothers me a lot, so I'm going to say something here. When you use the less than 2% of women are producers statistic," let me go back to the statistic, less than 2% of women are producers, in the single digits there. So, when you use that statistic, you're distorting the data. The correct phrase is, out of a subset of 600 songs that hit the Hot 100 charts, 2.6 of them were women, 2.6%. As someone who does this research, I don't want to sound like a pedantic bleep, but there are a bleep load more women producing than 2%. And when you say things like that, you render a tsunami of women invisible. We are here. There are many of us. We just haven't been given the same access to opportunity to hit an arbitrary and ridiculous level of success to apparently matter enough to be counted. I know this stat is compelling from a fundraising standpoint and gets people wound up, angry, upset. But I've been doing this work for far too long to let this 2% thing fly. There are many of us now, and we're incredible. We just don't have Hot 100 hits. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So let's take another look at the data. So there seems to be this 10% number, right, that I keep flashing around, 9%, 15%, 2%, whatever, very low numbers. But let's look at this. Hey Audio Student, I don't know if anybody's a member of that group, but it's audio engineers, producers all over the world, has 197,000 members. Sound Girls, which is women who are in audio, has about 18,000 likes, 19,000 folders. It's about 10% of the bigger number, right? Women's Audio Mission has similar numbers, but check this out. Okay, 10% are women in spatial audio. What is that number, 10%? There's 11,000 members in this group, so about 1,000 are women, right? Does that mean there's only 1,000 women who are interested in spatial audio? No, it doesn't. it means that that's not a safe space for women who are interested in spatial audio to interact with people. This is a women in virtual reality and augmented reality group. It's got 11,000 members. We're here. There's lots of us. We just don't have enough credits to be counted. There are exceptions too. There's places where women are outnumber men, like in live sound in Japan. I had the fortunate opportunity to go to Japan in 2024, and there are more women who are live sound engineers than men in Japan, apparently. I don't have data to back it up, but that seems to be kind of common knowledge. Also, those are the more lowly paid sound gigs in Japan. So there's a little economic disparity there. And in Poland, there are more women who are audio engineers, especially in school. Frederick Chopin University, this is one of the women who won a student recording competition. What's going on in Poland? So I didn't know until, let's see, I think it was last year, there was a convention in Warsaw, and someone approached me and just said, Leslie, you wrote that book, Women in Audio. I said, yes. He's like, I bet you're wondering why there's more women in audio in Poland. I said, yes, where were you 5 years ago? He said, it's because we have women declare a major instrument. We have our students declare a major instrument in order to study engineering here. Ah, okay, so that's the entry requirement. Interesting, interesting, interesting. All right, let's look at some more data. This is a paper called Do We Want to Keep the Gate Threshold That High? I'm finally glad, I'm so glad I found a slide that directs directly to the, literally to the topic of the conference. So yes, in this study we're looking at microaggressions. Let's see, it was Amandine Pra, who's a French researcher, and her colleague from Greece were studying at the University of York, and they did this survey, and they disseminated to like 4,000 people, or it was a large subset, more than 30, definitely, of women all over the world, women and men all over the world, just to talk about how many people experience these things. Females were more likely to report sexual objectification, silencing, marginalization, all these horrible things, and this is the data that they have to back it up. By the way, there's a QR code, so feel free to take screenshots of the slide, but you can also read my dissertation, so you'll have access to all this data. And then access, speaking of access, this is how much it cost for me to build a Dolby Atmos studio. So if there's not a lot of women and underrepresented groups in immersive audio, well, one of the reasons might be is super expensive, right? So how do we fix it? How do we fix it? Networking, mentoring, and role models equals social capital. Every single person in this room needs a formula for social capital, everybody. It's just that the way that women and minorities build that social capital is different. Everybody needs a network. So, Society for Popular Music is a network. Audio Engineering Society is a network. Your classmates are a network. Everybody relies on that network to build social capital. Mentoring, people have to teach you things, not only in school, but when you're training on the job, people have to teach you client relations. How do they want the culture of their company to be set up? You need to be mentored. And of course, you need role models. The saying is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. I don't think that's true, because there's lots of women who had no one blazing the trail for them, and we call them trailblazers because they are doing this. But we see that the impact of role models, right, is very strong. So we want to make sure that we have role models to hold up for younger women to see, to give them hope. Because if you just see these statistics, it seems kind of hopeless. So role models will help, definitely. And so in terms of networks, these are just a couple of the 70 organizations all over the world that a researcher named Eddie Dobson found. Just a few. We Make Noise, Sound Girls in Mexico. Sound Girls is national, or global, I should say. Women Who Are Sound, Institute of Musical Arts, the Creator Suite, 2% Rising. There's a 2% number, right? Audio Girl Africa, Yorkshire Sound Women's Network, Gender Amplified, Women's Audio Mission. Eddie Dobson actually cataloged one called Electronic Ladies here in Germany. Does anybody know Electronic Ladies? Apparently, I don't know if they're still active, but they were included in Eddie's report. And then there's some sound organizations for people of color as well. So Black Sound Society, Being Black in Game Audio, Black Women in Post-Production, Afrotectopia, cool stuff. So we need to review where we're at now, because we got to get to this word credibilitizing, right? So where are we at? There are not many underrepresented groups, women and minorities, working at the upper echelons of sound. Skywalker, Warner Music, Sony Music, major record labels, Hollywood movies, AAA games, Billboard charting songs. But there are lots of women and minorities in these affinity groups, right? They're building their social capital with mentorship, networking, and role models, and that barriers to entry and discouraging influences, Betties, I call them, they exist, they're quantifiable, and they contribute to this leaky pipeline. So now I've got my fourth question, which is, what are the main concerns of participants in immersive audio workshops, and how do they process their concerns? This is a very long research methodology that you feel free to read, but basically I did grounded theory research. Grounded theory research, I started with 88 participants. There were 88 people who took the classes to begin with, and I did 23 interviews. They were spread all over the world, from Africa, Europe, and North America, not including Asia. And this was the theoretical sampling that I did. So asking a question, writing down codes based on what they said, and comparing that to other people who I interviewed. And the question was, how has it been finding your way through your audio journey? What interests you about immersive audio, and do you have any questions for me? Notice I'm not asking a question like, it's hard, isn't it? Tell me about the microaggressions you face. That's not the question, because I don't want to lead a biased question. I just want to have a very open and general question. Tell me how it's been finding your way in your career. Just talk to me about your career. And people wanted to tell me of all those things. Now, because we're in a safe space, it's fair to say they might be biased, because they're like, oh, you want me to talk about being a woman in audio? That's an underlying unspoken assumption that people felt comfortable doing. So I acknowledge that these biases are there. But in the interviews, I found several major themes around pushing, learning, going it on their own. So I have these major categories like seeking mentorship. So if somebody said, hey, when I was starting in my career, this awesome woman helped me get started. So that goes under a subcategory, woman teacher, which is a major category, mentorship. Or if somebody says, I want to be part of Sound Girls because I want to help other women. Okay, that goes under women seeking affiliation. All these different subcodes and headings, but I had to figure out how to link them somehow. What is the thing that ties all of this together? In grounded theory, everything is data. Everything is data. Me standing here, the conversations I have in the hallway, newspaper articles, all of these things are data. And that's a dictum by Barney Glaser. I started hearing this. I want to be taken seriously. I don't want people to look at me and just think, I don't see an audio engineer in there. I want people to take me seriously, or I want to be seen as credible. I want people to believe that I can do this work. If I, stand in front of you and present myself at a job interview, I want you to see an audio engineer. I don't want you to see a black woman. I want you to see an audio engineer. That's what's in here. That's what I'm passionate about. Here's some of the quotes that I got that led me to believe that being taken seriously was sort of like a universal, or in this study, important thing to follow. It took me 3 to 4 years for them to take me seriously. People direct their questions to my male research assistant instead of me. My company sent me to this conference, and they gave me the names of all dudes to present with me. But I went to ask my female colleague. She has a PhD. There's more. When I say I produce or that I started in engineering first, that causes a glitch in their matrix. Because I wasn't a well-traveled person, my boss didn't trust me. We're not taken seriously in anything. I don't want to be assumed to be stupid. It took a lot of effort to keep proving myself. I'm not here to joke. I'm serious. No one took my passion seriously. And this one hit home for me personally. My partner says I have imposter syndrome. Even though I'm doing my master's degree, I'm thinking about how I can learn more. I feel like I have to have a professorship before anyone takes me seriously. Why the hell am I Dr. Leslie Gaston-Bird? I feel like I need a professorship. It's imposter syndrome. It's me. It's what I do. So, that theme of being taken seriously, I wanted to sort of test a little bit. 6 of 7 women based in Europe who participated in these interviews hold master's degrees. And 1 was completing her master's at the time of writing. So basically everyone who took my workshops who were European had a master's degree. I went to Los Angeles. I was in a room full of 20 mastering engineers who work in major record labels. And they said, so Leslie, tell us about what you do with your initiative. And I said, well, you know, I've got 7 students from Europe, and they're really sharp. They all have master's degrees. One of the guys stopped and said, master's degree? Who here has a high school diploma? And they just started guffawing, laughing, ha ha ha. And I thought to myself, oh, ha ha, ha ha, we're doomed. Right? They don't seem to have that same imposter syndrome. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying they didn't feel the need to get a master's degree or a PhD. It's just different. So I started asking my participants, do you feel as though you're taken seriously? And I started developing my theme. The main concern of my participants is that they are being seen as credible, and the way they process those concerns is to leak up, not out, right? Because of the leaky pipeline. They want to succeed in their careers. I found the thing that was going to tie all of these categories together. They are finding mentorship because they want to be taken seriously. They're finding women's affiliation because they want to be taken seriously. They are, what else do I have up there? They're pushing, they're tenacious because they want to be taken seriously. And so now I come to this picture, which I showed Sydney and Susanna last night. This is how my grounded theory mentor said that I had to then parse this out further. Okay, so this is like the next stage of grounded theory process, which is called theory development, memo sorting and theory development. So this is where I started to develop a theory of behavior. So I said, in order to be taken seriously, participants work hard to leak up, not out of the field by engaging in code breaking as they try to determine what's expected of them. They do this by encountering codes of credibility, trying to understand them by code breaking, and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture. Hold on a second, I'm going to fast forward past there. We can come back in a minute. I just want to show you my rank. Okay, so this is sort of a picture of what's going on. So I just want to come over here to show you where code breaking is in my story. if you want to be taken seriously, you might start by figuring out why you're not being taken seriously. Do I have to be confident, or do I have to hang back? Do I have to know everything, or can I just get by and not have to fill out every box on the application as if I know everything? What is it? Do I have to be one of the guys, or do I have to be a more assertive feminist? Like, what is it? What is the code that I have to break? If you can't break the code, and nobody can, I have a picture of Barbie, I think you saw it. You can't break the code. That's what discrimination and sexism is. It's unbreakable. You can't penetrate that wall. So then you have to go around the code. You have to go around, right? You have to start teaching others, upskilling, doing all of these things. But there's this one sort of pathway through this leaky pipeline. When I asked people who were working in sort of the higher end things, there's one word they all used almost universally. I got lucky. I got lucky. I'm so lucky to be working at Skywalker Sound. I have to pinch myself. I'm so lucky. Wow. And there's other people who make it to these upper echelons who had somebody vouch for them, right? You walk into the studio, you're doing your stuff, and your first client walks in. He's maybe a male client, doesn't know anything about the work we're doing, just, and sees a woman at the console and thinks, I don't know. And so the male who owns the studio comes in and says, oh no, she's got you, bro, she good, she's got you, she knows her shit. Male endorsement, somebody vouching for you, she knows what she's doing. All right, now I think I can go back a little bit. Okay, so this code breaking. A code is an unwritten set of principles, conventions, or expectations, or maybe like a password. What's the password? Some clients felt safer with men because they know what they're doing. This is someone who looked younger than they were. A male classmate of mine got a placement, but they told me they didn't have any interns. What makes it a man's job? Is it about being able to carry a speaker? My boss has never carried a speaker. I didn't know girls could do this. What? There's no male anatomy required to open Pro Tools. You need an eye lock. That's weird for you not to think that a woman can use her brain and ears. There's a bubble of stuff to overcome. There's this secrecy. Mixing is a dark art. How do you become a safe pair of hands for an important client? It felt like a fortress trying to get into this famous post-production house. I tried to sit on mixes, but it wasn't tolerated because of the directors coming in. Some people block others from seeing what they're doing. This was for a live sound thing. Am I supposed to be assertive and a bitch, or am I supposed to be meek and a waif? Am I supposed to make myself small so I don't get targeted? I don't want to be the, I don't want to be the feminist in the room. I just want to do my work because I don't want to be called out. I want to make myself small. You can't get in the studio to get experience, but you have to have experience. That's a catch-22. One of my older participants says, she was very confident. She's like, I'm the most experienced unknown engineer. And I laugh when I see all these engineers because I know none of you knows what I can do. But it's important that people know that you know how to do it. So this was I don't know if you've seen the Barbie movie, but of course America Ferrera plays a character who just loses her mind and says, you have to be this, but you can't be this. You have to be that, but you can't be that. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard. It's too contradictory, and no one gives you a medal and says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every other single woman tie herself into knots so people will like us. And if all of that is true for just a doll representing women, then I just don't know. Rigor and rank, I'm just going to keep going because I'm minding the time. Do I know what I know? Am I doing it right? So there's all these things that are part of this formula. And so I started developing the theory, which I will read to you now. The main concern of underrepresented groups in audio is being seen as credible, and the way they process these concerns is by leaking up, not out, of the career pipeline. The way they do this is by code breaking, by seeking ways to establish their credibility, or circumventing an industry with unnavigable pathways and finding their own way. So if you would like the full dissertation, I invite you to take a picture of this QR code. And I do have just a few more slides, and so I will let my hosts know that I am aware of the time, and I'm going to be wrapping up shortly. So immersive but not inclusive challenges faced by underrepresented groups in immersive audio. I'll also have my email at the end of the presentation if you can't get your camera working right now. So credibilitizing is a gerund that comes from the process of seeking and gaining credibility. And so now I've built a framework. So what is this framework? It shows the interactions between underrepresented people and their networks. I focus a lot on women, but this is also true for minorities, that enable underrepresented audio engineers to acquire credibility and belonging. Number one, right here, what we're doing today is great, right? We're credibilitizing, all of us right now. We are supporting marginalized students by having conferences like this and opening the dialogue. We have student-led initiatives that are happening at Elon, at St. George's. We call it Safe Spaces. Peer mentoring in Mexico is called Leaders of Tomorrow. And in these ways, educational environments become places to help students credibilitize and build social capital. Mentoring, the feminist audio collectives that I mentioned, other affinity groups, certification programs like the one that I run. They're safe spaces, and they enable credibilitizing by removing microaggressions and allowing free exchange of ideas in a supportive environment. How gatekeepers can help the framework support environments where you minimize imposter syndrome. There are no stupid questions. Try and create an atmosphere where we minimize imposter syndrome. Meet mentees where they are. A lot of times we assume that the way to fix the problem is to have a soldering workshop for 6th graders or for 12-year-olds. We might not need a soldering workshop for 6th graders or 12-year-olds. That's all very nice. What we might need to do is start hiring more women. There, I said it. And then meet mentees where they are. A lot of people have given up on breaking the code. They just want to know how to create an immersive audio workflow. Just show me. I'm not going to take your job, I promise. Just show me how to create an immersive audio workflow. I'm then going to go to my women's network and show them how to do it and lift them up. So gatekeepers can support the framework by making sure that they're meeting mentees where they are. What kind of mentoring do you want? Don't just make something for its own sake. And this is one we heard last year. You start the culture shift. Stay open-minded, educate yourselves, and share if you're in a position of power. Policy can be erased overnight. We see it in the United States, and I have to give credit to my mentor, Pamela Laird, who reminded me, you can burn up policy, but you can't burn up culture. So you start with the culture shift. But, you know, you see what's happening in America. It's just, you know, you can legislate rights out of existence, but you can't legislate culture. Yet, I don't think. Anyway, let's keep going before I get too deep into that. And then, so when you activate the framework, how are you going to connect your members to affinity groups, discover what kind of mentorship they want, create access, empower a student-led initiative? So how are you going to help your students take charge of their careers, minimize microaggressions, and minimize imposter syndrome? Finally, how will you measure impact? So this is the impact that my organization, Immersive and Inclusive, has had. I'm very proud to say we have had 90 participants from 10 countries and 71 certifications. So all of these women that you see here are Dolby Atmos certified operators. They are Grammy winners. They are award-winning mixing engineers. I'm so proud of following my students on their career trajectories because they are kicking butt. And that makes me happy. So please, if you're interested in participating more in my input case study, please take a moment to scan the QR code. It opens a form, and then you can just tell me your first name, last name, email address, and then I can reach out to you for interviews. And once you have a picture of that, I will enable you to download one sheet of what credibilitizing is. So this is just like a trifold brochure that you can download, have a look at it, see if it applies to your organization or your school, university, wherever you're teaching, and see if you want to start incorporating that in your curricula and your programs. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we have time for Q&A, but thank you for listening, and you can always reach me here. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should take some time for questions, right?
Yeah, Leslie will actually have to leave in about a quarter of an hour because she has to go to the next conference.
Yeah.
So we have about 10 minutes.
Hi, Leslie. I'm Stephanie. Hi, can you see me? I'm a musicologist. I run a research group that's called Sound System Epistemologies, Knowledge and Gender Through Practice, and we look at how masculinity and knowledge production through sound system, in the sense of Jamaican-style sound systems, go together. And I love all of the work you're doing, and I love especially the pragmatic approach, but my theoretical musicologist brain is also asking, one thing I was thinking about was when you talked about breaking the code, was that is also something that in other places might be called a double bind, where you deemed if you do, deemed if you don't, doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. There is no way of, and some people are suggesting that the way of getting out of a double bind is to name it and name its insidious nature and how it is just preventing people from going forward. So that's just something I wanted to share. And we're also building a sound system right now, and I loved my soldering classes as a child, and I'm still using the soldering skills and other stuff. And so I'm realizing as we're building a sound system, there's a lot of practical knowledge, there's theoretical knowledge, and there's a lot of trial and error, and a lot of working it out as you go along. But if we think of masculinity as something that is based on the performance of knowledge and knowing, and then in the process of figuring it out as you go along, you need to let your guard down, and you need to be able to not keep up that facade of I know what I'm doing. But you can only do that if you're surrounded by men, and there's a bromance and the way of like being able to let your guard down. So now is my question. What is it about masculinity and knowledge production? Why, especially in audio, why do they go hand in hand from all of the research that you've done and all of the practice?
So I haven't researched that, but I've thought a lot about it. And I'm going to tell you what I've thought about. And because I have a son and a daughter, and I listen to the way my son talks and I listen to the way my daughter talks, and this is not true of all children. My son likes cars. He knows the models of the car. It's a ZX1000, it's a CRT 500, it's a GM. He listened to, this is from experience now. I listen to men in my classes talk about plugins. I've got the Soothe plugin, and then I put that in with the compressor at 3dB, and then I put this because I heard this producer say that. I go to a lot of my women students are like, what? Am I supposed to know that? Sometimes they come to me and they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. All these guys know all this stuff and I don't know anything. And I tell them without fail, your grades are higher. Your grades are higher. So what does that tell you? It tells me that men have this bravado, guard the fort, I drive the biggest truck. It's a machismo, right? And girls don't function like that. I'm speaking generally. Some girls do. I don't. I'm not trying to show off the model numbers of everything. So to let your guard down if you're in that kind of environment is very hard, because then you have to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go memorize every single mic model and car model or whatever, so that I can, every football team, every score, who's the hottest quarterback.
Obscure techno label.
Yes, it's crazy. So this is where we need women's affinity groups, so that we can talk about things the way we talk about things, whatever that means. I don't have an answer for how you break into the fort. If I did, everybody would have it, the answer, and there would be no sexism, and it'd be great. But I wish I had the answer. But let's explore that. Let's explore fort knowledge and the tyranny of the model number. Anyone else?
Do we have other questions?
Why was teaching the least important factor?
Oh, I'm sorry? When you're teaching?
Why was teaching the least important factor?
When was teaching the least important factor? I'm not sure what you mean.
Compared to all the other factors, teaching had 46, I remember, %, and it was the lowest number. So my question is why?
Which one was that? Was it this? I know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, I probably just passed it. This one. It probably just has to do with the 23 or 24 people who took classes with me. Some of them were teachers. Some of them enjoyed teaching. It's one of the lowest numbers, but it also made the cut because it was one of the higher things that I coded. Yeah. You're welcome.
Any more questions?
Is there anyone on this side? No? Okay.
I'm not blind. Okay, great.
Okay.
One thing that I remember from going to a sound system conference in Jamaica is that another factor that didn't come up explicitly in your coding, but probably is in your data, is personal safety. One vocalist was saying that she travels to Jamaica to record, and she listed the measures that she took. I'm bringing my own food, I'm bringing my own drinks, I'm telling people where I'm going, I'm telling people when I'm going to be back, I'm telling people who I'm going to be with, and when I'm going to leave, and what they should be doing when I'm not in a certain place at a certain time. And again, it's the same in sound system practices. Who can be 13 years old and just hang out with a bunch of older dudes who are not your cousins, or even if. And so I think that's something that's buried in the data, and that's probably...
Yeah, safety, feeling safe, yeah, definitely. Feeling safe in a recording studio when the program is in the basement and you can be, it's a soundproof room, it's kind of terrifying. I haven't read a lot about, sexual assault, happens, unfortunately, but it's not so commonplace in the UK and the United States where, we worry about it, but that doesn't mean girls don't worry about it. You have to trust your male peers, to behave, and teachers have to hold the male students accountable. We have to hold everybody accountable. But you're right, safety is an issue. And I apologize for making generalizations to my male allies. I as they say, some of my best friends are men. So just thank you for being part of this conversation. And I hope we can, have positive talks moving forward. Thank you.
Ja, wenn das Mikro noch an ist, darf ich Sie jetzt zur ersten Kaffeepause einladen. Und wir starten dann sicherlich nicht gleich 16 Uhr, sondern 10 Minuten nach 16 Uhr. Vielen Dank, Leslie. Many thanks.